Adam braced himself as the console erupted in a cacophony of alarms. Space outside the cockpit windows blurred into streaks of color as his ship spiraled out of control. "Come on, not now," he muttered, hands flying over the dashboard, trying to stabilize the ship. The interstellar survey vessel was old, patched up more times than he could count, but it had always held together, until now. Emergency landing protocol initiated. The ship's AI, Eve, announced with unsettling calmness. "Brace for impact." Adam gripped the armrests, his heart pounding as the ship pierced the planet's atmosphere, flames licking the edges of the cockpit window. Trees and rivers zoomed into view, growing clearer as they hurtled toward the ground. With a tremendous jolt and a groan of metal, the ship hit the ground, plowing a trench in the soft earth before coming to a stop. Adam's head spun, his body aching from the force of the crash. He took a moment to collect himself before unstrapping and stumbling out of his seat. "Eve, status report. Main systems offline. Hull integrity compromised. We are grounded until further repairs," Eve replied. "Great, just great." Adam grabbed his survival kit, opened the hatch, and stepped out into an alien world. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flora. Giant fern-like plants and towering trees with luminescent leaves filled his view, casting everything in a surreal glow. As he surveyed the surroundings, a rustling sound caught his attention. He turned, half expecting some alien creature ready to pounce, but instead, he saw a figure stepping out from behind a tree. It was a man, dressed in what looked like a patched-up space suit, holding a makeshift spear. "Whoa, easy there. I'm not here to cause trouble," Adam said, raising his hands. The man lowered his spear slightly, eyeing Adam warily. "You're a human," he stated, his accent thick and unfamiliar. "Yes, and looking at you." "So are you," Adam replied, lowering his hands slowly. "I'm Adam. My ship just crashed." "Where are we?" "Name's Eli." "You're lucky to be alive," Eli said, still cautious but lowering his weapon completely. "This is Arion, a planet not charted by any known federation. And from the looks of it, you're stuck here like me." Adam sighed, taking in his less-than-ideal situation. "How did you end up here?" "Same as you, crash-landed. Been here nearly a year now. There's no way off this rock without a functioning ship," Eli explained, gesturing for Adam to follow him. "Come on, I'll take you to my camp. We need to get you out of the open." They walked through the dense underbrush, Eli leading the way with ease, which told Adam he had grown quite accustomed to the terrain. "So, there's no rescue team coming?" Adam asked, ducking under a low-hanging branch. "Nope. This planet's off the grid. I've been surviving off the land. There are a few of us here, remnants of failed expeditions, lost travelers. We made a community," Eli explained. "A community? Here?" Adam's curiosity piqued as they continued walking. "Yeah, you'll meet everyone soon. We look out for each other," Eli said, a hint of pride in his voice. Adam nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. The thought of other humans in the same predicament was comforting, yet the reality of his situation was daunting. As the camp came into view, a collection of makeshift structures and salvaged parts from various spacecrafts, Adam felt a cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to survive here, too. "Welcome to Arion," Eli announced, gesturing expansively. "Let's find you a place to rest. Then we plan your next move." Adam stepped into the camp, greeted by curious faces, each a story of survival. This was his new beginning, whether he was ready for it or not. As Adam followed Eli into the camp, he was met with a mix of curiosity and cautious hospitality from the other survivors. A small group gathered, eyeing the newcomer with a blend of interest and suspicion. "This is Adam," Eli introduced him. "Found him near his crash site. He's one of us now." A burly man with a grizzled beard stepped forward, extending a hand. "Name's Marco. I handle the engineering around here. If your ship's got anything salvageable, I'll be taking a look." Adam shook his hand. "Appreciate the help, Marco. There might be something left worth checking out. Come on, let's get you settled in." Another voice chimed in. A younger man with a friendly smile approached them. "I'm Lucas, by the way. I'll show you where you can sleep." "Thanks," Lucas, Adam replied, following him to a small shelter built from the remains of a spacecraft and local materials. The structure was surprisingly cozy inside, insulated with moss and equipped with basic amenities. Lucas pointed out the layout of the camp. We've all built our own little corners here. Over there's the kitchen area. We grow some of our own food and forage what we can from the forest. Water's collected from a nearby stream and purified. How many of you are here? Adam asked, setting down his survival kit. 9. Now with you, Lucas answered. Each of us brings something to the table. Survival's a team effort here. As the sun began to set, Eli invited Adam to a communal dinner. The group gathered around a large fire pit where a pot hung simmering with a stew made from local vegetables and protein sources. As they ate, the group shared stories of their lives before Arion. Each tale was a snippet of a former life far away from the struggles of surviving on an alien planet. So, Adam, what were you doing flying into uncharted space? A woman named Jenna asked, passing him a handmade bowl of stew. Survey missions. I was mapping out uncharted systems, looking for habitable planets. Guess I found one. Sort of, Adam replied, earning a few chuckles. What about communications? Any of you able to get a distress signal out? Adam inquired, a hopeful note in his voice. Eli shook his head. Nothing strong enough to reach the trade routes. Our tech's too scattered and weak. Marco added, we've tried boosting signals, but until we get better equipment or more power, we're not reaching anyone. Adam nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. His mind raced with potential solutions. Maybe we can combine what's left of my ship with what you've already got. It could boost the signal enough to make contact. Could work, Marco mused. Tomorrow, let's take a look at your wreck. See what we can salvage. The conversation shifted to more practical matters of daily survival. Lucas discussed the rotation of chores and responsibilities. We all take turns with cooking, watch duties, and maintenance. Keeps us busy and keeps the camp running. As the night deepened and the fire dwindled to embers, Adam felt a sense of camaraderie with this makeshift family. Despite the dire circumstances, there was a shared determination to make the best of their situation. We stick together. That's how we've made it this far. Eli stated firmly, everyone nodding in agreement. Adam, inspired by their grit, knew he had to contribute if he was going to make this alien world his home. Count me in. Whatever needs doing, I'm ready to help. As they dispersed to their shelters for the night, Adam lay in his new quarters, the reality of his situation settling in. Tomorrow would be his first full day on Arion, working side by side with his fellow survivors, forging a new life in the wilds of an uncharted planet. The next morning, Adam awoke to the sound of the camp stirring to life. He joined Eli, Marco, and Lucas outside, where they were preparing for the day's journey to the wreckage of his ship. Ready for a little scavenging adventure? Marco clapped Adam on the shoulder with a grin. Let's see what we can find, Adam replied, energized by the prospect of possibly improving their situation. The group, equipped with tools and makeshift bags, trekked through the dense forest, their path illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent plants. The air was thick with the sense of alien flora, a constant reminder of the strangeness of their surroundings. So, Adam, what should we be looking for in the wreckage? Lucas asked as they walked. Anything that can boost our signal. Power cells, transmitters, maybe even some intact computer hardware. Adam listed, scanning the terrain. They arrived at the crash site, a grim tableau of twisted metal and scorched earth. Adam led the way, pointing out pieces of debris that could be useful. Marco, hauling a heavy piece of equipment with Eli's help, asked, "How do you know so much about this stuff?" "I was an engineer before I became a surveyor," Adam explained, helping them load the salvageable parts onto a makeshift sled. As they worked, a sudden rustling from the underbrush caught their attention. A group of local creatures, similar to large rodents but with iridescent fur, watched curiously. Eli handed Adam a piece of fruit. "Here, try offering this. They're friendly enough if you're not a threat." Adam knelt, extending his hand out slowly. The creatures approached, sniffing the air before taking the fruit gently. "Looks like we made some new friends. Everything here has a way of surprising you," Eli remarked with a chuckle. With the sled loaded, They began the journey back to camp, their conversation turning to the stories of how each had ended up on Arion. It was a mix of misadventure and bad luck, but each story echoed a will to survive and adapt. Back at camp, they unloaded their haul. Jenna and a few others came over to inspect the finds. "Looks like you got quite a bit. This could really help," Jenna observed, examining a compact power module. "We'll need to start repairs on the comms equipment first thing tomorrow," Marco decided. "Adam, you think you can boost the output with this stuff?" "It's possible," Adam replied, inspecting the components. "But I'll need to rig up a new circuit. Might take a bit of trial and error." "No time like the present to start," Eli said. "We've got plenty of hands to help." As the sun began to set, the community gathered for another meal. This time, Adam felt more at home, laughing and sharing in the camaraderie. After dinner, the group sat around the fire, discussing plans for the future. "We should consider building a signal tower. Get some height on our antenna," Lucas suggested. "That's a good idea," Adam agreed. "Higher elevation, clearer transmission path. We might just reach someone." The talk turned to the construction of the tower, with everyone contributing ideas and offering to help with the build. It was clear that Adam's arrival had sparked a new wave of optimism about their chances. As the fire burned low and the stars came out, casting light on their alien home, Adam looked around at his new companions, feeling a profound sense of belonging. Here on Arion, against all odds, they were not just survivors but a community, building a life together under the stars. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Adam worked side by side with Marco and Lucas, assembling the makeshift tower that would hopefully broadcast a distress signal far enough to be detected. The camp buzzed with anticipation as everyone contributed, carrying materials, taking turns on watch, and keeping spirits up with light banter. "Hand me that cable, will you?" Marco said, sweat trickling down his brow as the midday sun beat down on them. "Here." Adam passed the cable over. "This should connect to the top array. Once that's in place, we can test it." Lucas, securing a panel with a wrench, looked down at them from the halfway point of the tower. "Think it'll work, Adam?" "It has to. If this can't reach someone, nothing will," Adam replied, wiping his hands on his trousers. By nightfall, the tower was mostly complete, with only a few finishing touches left for the morning. The camp gathered for dinner, the air charged with a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Eli raised a cup of the fermented drink they had managed to make from local fruits. "To working together," Eli said, eyes glinting in the firelight. "To doing what we can, with what we have." "To us," Adam added, raising his own cup. A chorus of agreement followed, and they drank to the small victories that kept them going. As the evening deepened, Jenna started playing a soft tune on a makeshift string instrument. The music floated on the cool breeze, weaving through the quiet conversations and laughter. Adam sat beside Marco and Eli, their shoulders sore and minds buzzing with ideas for the final steps of the project. "You know," Marco said, leaning back against a log, "I never thought I'd be part of something like this when I signed up for deep space exploration. Funny how life throws you into things." "Survival makes strange allies," Eli replied, glancing at Adam. "Good thing you showed up when you did. We needed a fresh set of eyes on our situation." Adam nodded, feeling the weight of those words. The thought that he could contribute so significantly to the group's efforts made his pulse quicken, not from fear, but from something deeper, a sense of purpose. Jenna's music came to a gentle stop, and the group sat in silence for a moment, the only sounds being the crackle of the fire and the distant hum of night creatures. Lucas walked over, stretching his arms. "We should all get some rest. Big day tomorrow, right?" "Yeah," Marco said, pushing himself up with a groan. "I don't know about you, but my bones are screaming for sleep." "Same here," Adam agreed, standing and dusting off his pants. He exchanged a glance with Eli, who gave a small nod. The silent exchange said everything. They were ready for whatever tomorrow brought. As the camp settled into the night, Adam found his mind drifting. He sat at the edge of his shelter, watching the fire flicker and dance, casting shadows across the camp. The work they'd done felt monumental, but it was the connection, the shared resolve of this patchwork community, that meant the most. Dawn broke with a soft, orange glow filtering through the dense canopy of Arion's towering trees. Adam rose early, stretching his sore limbs and listening to the camp stir awake around him. Marco was already up, tinkering with the transmitter and making minor adjustments to the wiring. "Morning," Adam said, joining him. "Morning. Figured I'd give this one last tweak before we fire it up," Marco replied, eyes focused on the task. "Think we're ready?" Adam nodded. "As ready as we'll ever be." Lucas walked over, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "You guys couldn't wait, huh? I was hoping for an extra hour before the excitement." "Come on, Lucas, you'd be up anyway," Marco said with a grin. "You never could sit still." "True," Lucas admitted. He turned to Adam. "You nervous?" "Not nervous, just hopeful," Adam said, looking at the patched-together tower that loomed over their camp. "This could be our chance." Eli arrived, carrying a pot of strong, earthy brew made from the local plants. He handed out cups and took a seat beside them. "Today's the day, huh?" he asked, sipping the hot liquid. "Let's get this signal out." The small team gathered around the console connected to the tower, their faces a mixture of anticipation and exhaustion. Marco flipped the switch, and the soft hum of power surged through the equipment. A small light on the console blinked green. "Signal's active," Marco confirmed. Adam adjusted the frequency, fingers moving quickly over the controls. The speaker crackled, emitting a faint hiss. He pressed the button and spoke clearly, his voice steady. "This is Adam Wright of the stranded crew on Arion, an uncharted planet. We are a group of 9 survivors seeking immediate assistance. Coordinates are being transmitted with this message." The group fell silent as they listened to the transmission repeat on a loop. Seconds passed, then minutes. The stillness was only broken by the sound of wind rustling the leaves and the occasional chirp of wildlife. "Now we wait," Lucas said, breaking the tension. "Yeah," Eli added, leaning back against a log. "Let's hope someone's out there." Hours went by, and the camp resumed their usual activities, trying to stay distracted. Adam found himself helping Marco repair a solar panel while Lucas and Eli prepared supplies for a foraging trip. "Can't just sit around staring at that tower all day," Eli said, tossing a bag to Adam. "Come with us. We could use an extra set of hands." Adam slung the bag over his shoulder and followed them into the forest. The air was cool, carrying the sweet scent of blooming plants. Lucas led the way, pointing out edible roots and berries they had discovered over the months. "So, Adam, what's the first thing you'll do if we get rescued?" Lucas asked, plucking a cluster of bright red fruits and tossing one into his mouth. "Honestly," Adam paused, considering the question, "I think I'd miss this place a little. Strange, isn't it?" "Not so strange," Eli said, kneeling to dig up a root. "Survival bonds people. You adapt, and this world becomes part of you." The 3 men shared a moment of understanding before continuing their foraging. They gathered what they needed and made their way back to camp, their conversation lighter now, filled with stories and laughter. When they returned, Marco met them with a raised eyebrow. "Still nothing on the receiver," he said, but his voice lacked disappointment. "It was just a fact. Another day on Arion." Adam clapped Marco on the back. "It's okay. We'll keep trying." "Yeah, we will," Marco said, a smile breaking through. "We're not done yet." The sun dipped behind the trees, casting the camp in warm shadows. The men settled down for the night, a quiet determination lingering in the air as the tower stood tall against the sky. The next few days passed with a steady rhythm. The distress signal continued to broadcast, but the camp learned to balance hope with the demands of daily survival. Adam, Eli, Marco, and Lucas worked tirelessly to improve their living conditions and explore more of Arion's landscape. One morning, while Adam and Marco were reinforcing the roof of one of the communal shelters, Eli approached with a thoughtful look. "Adam, Lucas found something interesting down by the southern ridge yesterday. I think you should come see it," Eli said, wiping his brow. "Something good, I hope?" Marco asked, pausing his work. "Could be," Eli said, a hint of excitement in his voice. Adam nodded, climbing down from the shelter. "Let's check it out." "Lucas, you coming?" Lucas, who had been sorting supplies nearby, perked up. "Definitely. I've been waiting for this. The three men gathered their gear and set off through the thick underbrush. The forest seemed alive with the sounds of hidden creatures, leaves rustling and the occasional call echoing through the trees. Adam marveled at how the planet had become familiar, yet still held so many mysteries. "So, what did you find, Lucas?" Adam asked as they navigated around a cluster of massive ferns. "It's an ancient-looking structure, hidden in the rocks," Lucas said, his eyes bright. "Looks like some kind of building. I thought we were the only ones here, but this changes everything." When they reached the southern ridge, Adam saw it, a structure made of dark stone, half covered by vines and moss. Intricate carvings were visible along the edges, depicting symbols and figures unlike anything he'd seen before. "This is incredible," Adam whispered, stepping closer to examine the markings. "Eli, have you ever seen anything like this?" "Never. It's been here a long time," Eli said, running his fingers over the carvings. "It proves that there was a civilization here once." Marco, who had been standing back, spoke up. "Think there's anything inside? Supplies, records, anything useful?" Lucas grinned. "Only one way to find out." They worked together to clear the entrance, moving stones and cutting away vines until an opening appeared. The air inside was cool and carried an earthy scent. Sunlight filtered through cracks in the stone, illuminating the space just enough to see faint outlines of rooms and more carvings. Adam shone a flashlight across the walls, revealing more symbols and what looked like depictions of creatures similar to the ones they had seen in the forest. "This place might have answers to how the original inhabitants lived," he said, awe in his voice. Eli nodded. "And maybe why they're gone." The group explored further, discovering what appeared to be a large central chamber with a stone pedestal in the middle. Marco approached it carefully. "What do you think this was for?" Adam shrugged. "Could be ceremonial, or a place of gathering. Either way, it's a piece of this world's history." Lucas, who had been examining a wall, called out, "There are more carvings here. They look like constellations. Maybe they were mapping the stars like us." "That means they were advanced," Eli said, the realization settling over them. The men exchanged glances, each understanding that their time on Arion was becoming more significant. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about uncovering what had been lost and finding their place in the fabric of this alien world. As they stepped out of the ruins and back into the sunlight, Adam felt a sense of connection to this place that went beyond being stranded. This was more than just an uncharted planet. It was a world waiting to share its secrets. Marco broke the reflective silence. "So, what now?" "We come back, document what we can, and maybe learn something that helps us, or whoever finds us next," Adam said, determination in his voice. The men nodded in agreement, their shared purpose strengthening the bond they had formed. Arion was no longer just a prison. It was a place filled with stories waiting to be told. The days that followed their discovery of the ancient structure were filled with more than the usual hustle of survival. Adam, Eli, Marco, and Lucas spent hours exploring and mapping out the ruins. It had become an unspoken mission for the group, each of them feeling a deeper connection to the place they had come to call home. "Check this out," Marco called from a corner of the central chamber. He was kneeling by a pile of stone slabs, brushing off dust and moss. Beneath it, an intricate map was revealed, etched into the floor with what looked like star patterns and trails that hinted at a vast network. "Looks like they charted the whole planet," Lucas said, eyes wide. "Do you think there's more of these sites?" "It's possible," Adam replied, tracing the lines with his finger. "And if there are, they might hold more answers or even useful resources." Eli glanced around the chamber, taking in the carvings and the worn pedestal. "I can't shake the feeling that these people were like us, explorers. Maybe they were looking for something, or escaping from something," Marco added, a serious note in his voice. The air grew quiet as they all considered his words. Adam shook off the chill that ran down his spine and changed the subject. "We need to document this as best as we can. If help ever comes, this could be important." They spent hours recording their findings with the limited technology they had, sketching out carvings and copying symbols. As the sun began to set, painting the walls with long shadows, Lucas leaned back against a stone column and sighed. You know, for the first time since we crashed here, I'm not thinking about leaving, Lucas admitted. It's like this place is starting to feel like, I don't know, more than just a place we're stuck in. Eli chuckled, his voice warm. You're going soft, Lucas. Maybe, Lucas said with a grin. But tell me you don't feel it too. Marco nodded slowly. There's something about digging into this mystery. It makes all the hardship worth it. Adam sat back, watching his friends, the firelight from a small torch casting a glow over their faces. I get it. When I first crashed, I thought all I wanted was to fix my ship and leave. But now, this feels bigger than just surviving. Eli pushed himself up, stretching his arms. Well, we can't let ourselves get too comfortable. We still need to make sure we're ready for whatever might come. Let's call it for today and come back in the morning. The men gathered their tools and notes, making their way back through the forest as night settled over Arion. The path, once intimidating and filled with unknowns, now felt familiar. The camp came into view, lit by the soft glow of their fire and the twinkle of alien plants that lined their small clearing. Dinner's on me tonight, Lucas said, setting down his pack and heading toward the makeshift kitchen. Don't get used to it, though, Adam laughed, dropping into a seat beside Marco. If Lucas is cooking, we might be in trouble. Eli smirked. I'll take my chances. As they ate and swapped stories under the starlit sky, the weight of survival felt lighter. They were more than a group of castaways now. They were friends, bound by their shared trials and the discoveries that pushed them forward. Adam's gaze lifted to the sky, where the stars seemed closer than ever, and he felt something he hadn't in a long time, contentment. Tomorrow, we keep going, Adam said, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Eli raised his cup in agreement. And we see just what Arion has to offer. Adam awoke before dawn, the chill of the early morning air sending a shiver through him. He sat up and looked around the camp. Eli was tending the fire, adding a few sticks and blowing gently to coax the flames to life. Marco was already up, rummaging through a crate of salvaged tools, while Lucas stretched, yawning loudly. Morning, Lucas said, his voice rough from sleep. Morning, Adam replied. He glanced at Eli, who was poking the embers thoughtfully. You're up early. Eli nodded. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the ruins and what else might be out there. Marco stood up, a wrench in one hand. Me too. Those carvings, the map. It's like they're calling us to look deeper. Adam smiled. Well, we've come this far. What's one more adventure? Lucas rubbed his hands together. You know, I was thinking, if there are more sites like this, we could find something game-changing. Maybe even old technology that could help us get off this rock. Eli's eyes narrowed, not with skepticism but with consideration. Or find out what happened to the people who built those structures. Either way, we can't stop now. Breakfast was quick, a mix of foraged fruit and dried rations. The group gathered their gear and set out for the ruins once more, their excitement palpable. The forest was alive with the morning calls of creatures, some familiar and others still unknown. Adam led the way, feeling a strange mix of anticipation and contentment. This was more than a quest for survival. It was a journey with friends. They reached the ruins by mid-morning, the stone walls bathed in dappled sunlight. The air was cool inside, a sharp contrast to the warmth outside. Adam moved toward the map they had uncovered days before, tracing the lines with his fingers. If this is accurate, there should be another structure to the west, Marco said, studying their sketches. We could get there by midday if we move fast. Then we move, Eli said, slinging his pack over his shoulder. We're not getting younger. The hike was tougher than expected. The terrain grew steeper and the underbrush thicker, but they pressed on, their conversations filled with speculation and plans. Lucas stumbled over a root and laughed as Adam caught his arm. Thanks, Adam. Guess I'm not as nimble as I thought. Adam grinned. You're just getting old, Lucas. Eli rolled his eyes. If he's old, what does that make Marco? Wise, Marco shot back, and the group erupted in laughter. As they neared the spot indicated on the map, the forest opened up into a clearing dominated by a large, vine-covered stone edifice. This structure was more intact than the previous one, with carvings that seemed to tell a story. The men moved in, their excitement hushed by the solemnity of the place. "Look at this," Adam said, pointing to a series of figures on the wall. They showed beings, possibly the builders, interacting with what looked like an artifact. The final scene depicted a departure, a ship rising into the sky. "Do you think they left?" Lucas whispered, the weight of the question settling over them. "Or maybe they found what they needed and moved on," Eli replied, his voice low. Marco, running his hands over the carvings, said, "If they could find a way out, so can we." Adam turned to his friends, a smile breaking across his face. "This changes everything. If they had technology advanced enough to leave, we might be able to reverse engineer it." The group spent the rest of the day documenting their findings, their minds racing with the implications. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, they sat in the clearing, tired but exhilarated. Lucas leaned back, staring up at the sky. "You know, even if we don't find a way off this place, at least we're doing something more than just surviving. We're making this ours." Eli nodded. "We're more than a group of castaways now. We're explorers, maybe even the start of something new." Adam looked at his friends, the men who had become his family in this strange, beautiful world. "Whatever happens next, I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else." Marco raised a water flask.
"To Arion, and to what comes next."
"To what comes next," Adam echoed, and they all drank, the future open and full of promise.